Welcome to Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, a woman who is always on brand, Rebecca Leppard, a proud Indonesian mother of three who spends her days as a brand strategist, is here to talk not only about her business, upgrading women, but also her comedian crush, the former host of The Daily Show, Trevor Noah. Rebecca, how are you?
I am great, yet I am missing Trevor from my screen.
I know. He's had like a bunch of, I think they're doing like a little audition process right now, having everyone do a week. I hope my crush, Jordan Klepper, is the next one to take over.
Oh, but don't take Jordan away from the field. He's great on the field.
That's true. I mean, that's the only reason I think I catch the clips is when he started to do that, because they are. I don't know how he keeps a straight face. I don't know how he does it.
I know. I if I were him, I would be pulling my hair out and smashing my microphone. But another contender that I really, really love is Leslie Jones, because I think she's of that age and level of success that she's very comfortable with herself. And we need that type of people talking and joking about politics and current events, because if you still care about people, whether or not people will cancel you, etc., then you won't go all out. And that is, I think, what I loved about how Trevor changed the narrative. I mean, Jon Stewart before, the long-standing Daily Show host, he also, him being a white man, of course, nobody's gonna really cancel a white man, right? But then Trevor coming up as not only an underdog, but a new kid on the block. Nobody in the US knew him. And, he probably had to do all sorts of visa run to start with. And I knew that at the start of him taking over the Daily Show, not everybody accepted the resignation of John right in the middle of a heated 2016 election, right? And then who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, it was definitely because Jon Stewart was just such a staple on the show. So I think it was just hard. I think it's hard anytime you switch over guests on anything from like late night shows. It's just like because you get so used to it. Even I think local newscasters, when they leave, I'm like, oh.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But then the replacement is somebody like the people who are now quote unquote auditioning to replace Trevor are big names. The first 6 weeks it was big names. Wanda Sykes, Chelsea Handler. So to replace somebody who used to be unknown, that was what was so great about it. But then I saw him, and so my profession so I started myself as a journalist, but not like a hardcore hard news journalist. I used to work for health publications. So I used to interview doctors and nurses and midwives. And then I moved to the dark side of the business, which is public relations. And I was my boss was so angry at me because I refused to watch the news.
Well, it's depressing sometimes. Most times.
And this is like this is what, back in 2009, 2010. So it wasn't even, this is like pre-Trump. This was Obama era, so it wasn't that bad, but it was recession. And for me, it's like, oh my God, it's another, and this is again also before Me Too, before Twitter. So even before that, it was so already overwhelming for me, for my mental health. And then my boss is like, but you're in public relations. I mean, she said, back when I was a junior like you, I before the morning briefing, I had to already skim the entire, stack of newspaper to tell my boss what's happening in the world. And all you need to do is just watch, clips and read through Twitter, and you refuse to do that. And I'm like, honestly, you would prefer me not having any opinion about the world. Otherwise, I will go ballistic. And yeah, for so long, I don't. And even so, I'm married to a Brit, but we were living in Asia. And I asked him, like, okay, what is Brexit? and this is before the actual thing happened. So the campaign, Brexit versus remain in the EU, was still going on. And I just, in the background, I hear him listening to BBC, and Brexit was in the vernacular, and I was like, so what are you gonna vote for? I asked him, and he's like, I don't know, it's so confusing. Some people say that it's gonna be good for us, etc., etc. So I'm like, oh my God, this is like, you're a teeny tiny country and this is the information era, and yet you're still confused. Like, you consume the news, and the fact that you're even more confused than me, being ignorant and bliss, it's what good is it for? But then, I don't even remember the exact time I found out about Trevor. But then after I found out that he hosted The Daily Show, I then followed the news, but only through Daily Show's social media and Daily Show actual show. Because if you don't put a comedic twist on reading the actual news, it is depressing and it will make you angry.
And do you remember what clip you first saw of Trevor Noah? Like what he was explaining, what dumpster fire in America he was going on about? Because there was a lot to cover with the Trump election.
I know, but it is a lot of Trump, and I think the whole team, I have to say, the entire team of Daily Show did great jobs. How each what do they call it? Contributors? No. Correspondent, yes. Each correspondent give their take. One is doing like satirical stuff with Desi Lydic, and one is doing like an angry girl, which is Dulce Sloan and Roy Wood and the whole gang, right? And Ronnie Chang, of course, being the angry Asian. I totally relate, because I'm also from that area, Southeast Asia, and so I and plus that was also the emerging of Hasan Minhaj. So the whole trend of being so, well, it's not a super duper new trend. We know that comedians have been doing a lot of political observational humor, like Dave Chappelle, etc. But to watch it every single day, as I said, I couldn't pinpoint which one, because it's just so many. And and sometimes if I watch the same clip that I watched a couple of years back, I'm still laughing. And of course, I got his book.
I was gonna say, like, you saw the clip, and then you start watching more and more, and the crush develops. And I know for me, even when I start to have like a little inkling of a crush on a new person, well, a celebrity, I go into this like research mode. Like, I have to know the who, what, when, where, why of them.
Yep.
So for
Yep.
you, like, how long after seeing that clip did you go, let me Google this person, let me like see what else?
Oh, very quickly, because like you, I'm a TV addict as well. So I'm in bed with IMDb and Wikipedia, of course. Like my husband and I like, let's IMDb that dude. So any and we're not great with names, but we're good with faces, like with actors, and like, oh, this guy was that guy in that thing. So yeah, as I'm listening to podcasts and everything, I would go down rabbit hole, and I want to know, like, okay, I can see that his mixed race. I want to know like what type of white person. His dad was like, oh, from Switzerland. Okay, like, okay, French Swiss or German Swiss, and that sort of thing. And yeah, the more I learn about him, the more I fell in love with the personality, in that this guy is the complete opposite of privileged, right? From the, the fact that he titled his book Born a Crime, which is like, that is the highlight. The fact that, oh my God, not only that him as a person of color is prone to be suspected and to be stopped and searched, etc. He was born already a crime, a production, an output of a criminal action at the time.
Right? For those that don't know, being like in a racial couple or anything like that, and he was born a year before it was not a crime and not punishable. So that is insane, because he was born 1984, I believe.
Yeah.
And we live in a backward world.
Yes, exactly. So he's a South African, half black, half white, and at the time in 1984, the law says that a person of color should not be in any kind of relationship, I think, other than working relationship with each other. So his mom used to have to pretend to be his nanny when they're going out together. That was how sick it was. And to be born in such, for me, where a person is born is the first kind of draw off the lottery, I think, because we know that these days, especially people who are woke, that the zip code almost determine your trajectory, right? And imagine it, this is, zoom it out of the zip code, zoom it out to actually the rest of the world, and to be born in a third world country that at the time was still backwards, and having a parent who's not married, not even allowed to be married. So already there's so many disadvantages that he was facing. So the more I know about his history, the more I'm in love, because I resonated a lot. I used to, the usual, I liked Brad Pitt and all of these, like football players, etc. The usual, just because of the looks that I'm interested in, and the talent, of course. But then I guess as I am older, plus I am now an immigrant in the first world country in England, I become more and more aware of, like, oh my goodness, people who are born here, no matter what color, people who are born in the first world country, they have already a massive leg up. And I realized that myself, like, I could be born, I was born in Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia. But I can also at the same time see that, oh my God, I was born in a third world country, but in the capital. I could have been born in, by the river inside a jungle. Right? So I see that from both ends. But then at the same time, the more I learn about Trevor's story, the more I geek out and I listen to his memoir. And how cool is that? Like, if you're back then, he was in his early 30s and already have such a life story to warrant a memoir. How cool is that? Right?
Yeah, like if a 12-year-old wrote a memoir, it'd have to be really good.
Exactly, unless you're Jesus. And Jesus had a memoir at 30 called the Bible.
And I hear it's the best-selling book in the world too. So do you think that you're both immigrants? You mentioned you both went to private school. You have like these lot of things in common. Do you think that makes crushes stronger when you have more similarities? Because I know Paula Abdul said opposites attract, but I think it's the similarities that when we're like, oh, my favorite celebrity likes this restaurant, I think it's meant to be. Like, we kind of get in our head about that.
I know what you mean, but I think there are two things that one, I know when I have a crush, crush at work, crush with celebrity, versus when I'm looking for an actual mate, I wouldn't call soulmate, but like a partner in life, a spouse. They're like two different brain that I use. Like, for example, for a spouse, I would see the attraction something that is the opposite, as in I'm an alpha female, and if I see another alpha male, someone who's dominant in the room, so confident, etc., I wouldn't be sexually and romantically attracted, if I'm honest. Like, with Brad Pitt, I know exactly when I fell in love with him. So at this
was it
time,
Thelma and Louise?
No, it was Meet Joe Black. Because he was so. If any of you, Meet Joe Black is not like a big box office. I'm not sure, but it was with Anthony Hopkins. But it was big names. So the character, Brad Pitt's character in this movie, he was virginal. He was geeky, right? And he was like innocent, So he wasn't like gangster dude, boss type.
Yeah, he wasn't the Brad Pitt we always see.
Yeah, so it's not like not a superhero type. More like a the quiet friend type. So that is the one that I'm like in real life. That is the sort of opposite that attract. But my crush with Trevor is more like, oh my God, he could articulate. And okay, first of all, funny is sexy. All right. That's just like one tick. Funny, no matter what you look like, if you're funny, if you can make anyone laugh, that is half the battle. So it's non-negotiable if we share the same wavelength in terms of joke, like how dark we go and how satirical and how sarcastic, etc. So
would you ever be into like someone who is super serious, or is sense of humor probably like an underlying commonality of crushes that you have?
No, I have been with, like on a date or something, or like on one nighter with someone who's physically beautiful, but it doesn't get anything going, because laughter is the first thing that will open up the lady. Because first of all, as women, we tend to be guarded, right? And we tend to be shy. We tend to be not shy, but yeah, well, I guess reserved. And especially because of the societal pressure of having to be perfect, etc. But as soon as someone makes you tickle your brain so well that you don't care that you are LOL, like you open your mouth so large, and laugh so loudly and you nearly piss your pants, that the entire guard is absolutely down. And after that, you're like, A, damn, you're funny. B, damn, I can see you smile. And again, smile, laughter, it makes you, 50% more attractive. And then it's like, the fact that I get your joke, it means that we are in the same intellectual level, whatever it is, right? So if you're laughing at the same thing, it means you're at the same intellectual level. It means that you know how to unpack, you know why this is funny, why, because sometimes a joke can be offensive to some people, right?
Yeah.
Regardless if it's like racial or political, whatever. But the fact that you're offended, it means you're not in the same wavelength. So for me, it's almost the same. That some people debate like, you cannot joke about anything anymore, or what is off limit, etc. For me, it's like, hey, as long as it's funny and you can guarantee that it's funny on an intellectual level, it is not offensive. So like a lot of Dave Chappelle's material, many people find it offensive, but they're probably just not in the same wavelength and mindset and headspace when they listen to it, and they make it as an offensive thing, even though it is comedy. So a lot of things that Trevor said, for a lot of people, probably it's offensive as well, because he went on to say a lot of things about colonialism. He joked about the Queen of England, right?
I mean, a lot of, when she passed, that was a lot of jokes around these parts over here in this country. Yeah. Not so much over where you are.
Don't. We just had a coronation 2 days ago.
The memes from that are golden.
Exactly. So, and I tell you, the atmosphere in this part of the pond is like 50%, including like my in-laws, are like glued to the TV and reposting everything and saying, God save the queen. It's the king. I cannot even pronounce it. The king, etc. But half of the country is like between, they should just shut that whole thing down, versus like, you know what, I am not even going to give it any attention. I'm just gonna continue with my work and my life, etc., etc. So yeah, it's quite divided, if I'm honest.
Sounds like America.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of entertainment, yeah, of course. In terms of current affairs, that it is history, living history. Yeah, I gave it as much attention as the pandemic. I mean, we wanted to know at the time. Remember 3 years ago, we were like, how many people died? And the prince, who's now the king, did get COVID. So I gave it as much attention as that, because it's just part of current affairs. And yeah, I was monitoring the meme as well, and the fashion, naturally. But
gotta have the fashion.
Yes, the hats.
Most important part of, I think, any large event is always the fashion.
Oh yeah, 100%. and that's why and if I'm honest, I was, as a member of a colonialized country. So Indonesia was colonialized by the Dutch for 300 years.
Wow.
And not many people know that, because the Dutch, they don't dominate, other imperialists. And Indonesia, despite of the size of the country, people don't really, it's not top of mind. So yeah, we were colonized for 300 years, 350 years actually. And then after that, we were colonized by the Japanese for 3 very painful years until the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And then we sneaked out and declared, "Hi, we're independent, yay!" Just like literally days after the bomb. But here's the unique thing about how Trevor managed to wake up my mind using his comedy and his genius is that, so me and my fellow countrymen and women, we are very much still colonized in our mind. We look up to white people so much. And it's not even, and it's, how do I say it? So white privilege in our country, in Indonesia, white privilege is something that us, the actual people, perpetuate. So we, like, hello white people, come to our country, to this day, okay? Come to this country, you're so beautiful, like we want to be like you, we want to be you, we want to marry you and have your children. To a point that when I married a white person, not by design, but when I married a white person, many people were like, hooray, it's a win. Honestly. and B, annoyingly, oh yay, it means your children will be half white, comma, they will automatically be head and shoulders above the Indonesian kids, the indigenous kids. So that is how I wouldn't say backwards, but how colonized our minds are. And I never really gave it a second thought. I never really, I just accepted it. And I have a dark skin. I think my complexion is almost the same as Trevor. So I don't have black skin, but I have dark brown skin. And for my entire lifetime, I've been bullied because my skin is dark, because we worship white skin.
Colorism is, I think, probably one of the biggest issues. I think a lot of cultures.
Absolutely. And so among my country people, my countrymen and women, I'm a second class because I don't have fair skin. And thankfully, I didn't fall into the trap of the beauty industry where I literally just bleach my skin. And I know a lot of people do. I don't, and I don't bleach my hair either because, again, blonde is considered luxury and basically first class. So all of this was just lingering in my mind. And don't forget that I work in brand and marketing. So when I was marketing my client's product, guess which type of people that we use for stock images? It's the white people. It's the white people. And the target audience are Asian, like Chinese Asian, Indonesian Asian, like actual people of color. And I remember my boss, who's a white German, asking me, "Rebecca, we're targeting the Chinese Indonesian. Why are you putting white faces on the ad?" That you don't understand the minds of our people. We strive to be like them. So we want to put the picture that people aspire to be. People want it to be white. And this is how sick the mindset is. And I'm not blaming us. I just blame the centuries and centuries of oppression. And when I hear, and I remember this bit, Trevor on his stand-up saying that, so he was pretending to be he's creating like a skit in his monologue. Imagine people, centuries ago, people in India minding their own business, and suddenly British troops came in and say, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
This is mine now. Like, what? Like, and I was like, shit, yes, of course. They didn't even speak the same language, right?
Mhm.
This is back when India was still pure India. Like today's India, they speak English, perfect English, the Queen's English. But this is centuries ago, and they were minding their own business by the river, in the mountain, planting rice and what have you, and suddenly, da, 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 da.
There's these like random people like in their space speaking this weird language, looking pale as it can be.
Exactly. And
saying they own it now.
Yeah, this is mine now. Like, God Save the Queen. I think at the time was it Queen Victoria or even before that? Well, whatever it was. And the joke was like, God, which God? Because people in India, they don't just believe in one God. So it was already like enforcing the mold into, well, we believe in one God, so you have to as well. So all of these things. So it woke up my mind thinking that, damn, my mind had been so normalized, so desensitized with all of this, and that I didn't see it at the time. I was really like I was following the William and Kate's wedding with just like normal, quote unquote, normal pair of eyes. But these days, I'm like, what? Looking at the crown, the crown jewels, I'm like, they should probably return all those diamonds.
Yeah, I saw the picture and somebody said this is from here, and it's like, why do you still have it then? Like, you can give it back now. You don't need it.
Yes, absolutely. And so it was such a Matrix moment when every time I listened to Trevor talking about colonialism at the time, it was like, oh my goodness, that is so true. Like, I remember there's a news story as well that, okay, so of course we all know about Harry and Meghan Megxit. So they left the royal family, quote unquote, institution, and they had to return their castle. It's called the Frogmore Cottage. So they had to return the right of use of that 20-bedroom house. And of course the entire country was like, good for them, or you should return everything. And the word return was trending to a point that I said, you know what? You should return everything that you stole.
The royal family's like, wait, that's a little too far.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the crazy things. But I'm so grateful, because if I stayed in, because before Trevor, I just put my head in the sand in terms of current affairs, politics, and you know how a lot of people say, oh, I'm not political, blah blah blah. But I'm like, you know what? We have to be political. Every single thing, even our bodies now are decided by politicians.
It's a shame. It's a shame, therefore. I feel like when my mom, like when I was little, I don't think my mom had to pay attention to politics as much. I was like, I don't think my mom knew who a senator. I still to this day, she can't name a senator, but even, in her early 30s, she was not thinking about that. And it's just so much in our face. I think because social media too.
Yeah.
You mentioned like the Megxit and the royal wedding and everything. That's something we just follow because it's just instinctual and it's in our face. But for Trevor Noah, you love his comedy, you love The Daily Show, but were you also like involved in following his personal life? Because I know he recently, in the last few months, had some pictures with Dua Lipa come out. I was like, oh, that's an interesting couple. Are you following his personal life too?
Well, that's the thing. When I have crushes, I'm in a massive denial that they will just single and stay single forever. like back when I was crushing on Brad Pitt, I didn't want to know that he was with Gwyneth. This is like way back when he was with Gwyneth. Can you imagine? But yeah. But at the same time, I remember watching one of his interviews. I think, was it with Diane Sawyer or, a big name like that? And he was very shut off talking about his love life. He was very uncomfortable talking about that. He was on Ellen as well, and he was also uncomfortable talking about it. And the only thing I remember is at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a picture circulating of him getting his girlfriend at the time, Minka Kelly, to move in with him because they were quarantining together. And it did. Well, I felt two things. It broke my heart because, I cannot deny anymore that he's single. And two, I was like, oh, I'm glad that he is with someone who's at least chronologically mature. I mean, it's not like he's with a 20-year-old influencer or something like that.
That's when you still deny that there was someone when it's someone like that.
Exactly. I mean, it's not like
not a child.
I'm glad that he's not like Leonardo DiCaprio and the roaster of who knows, what's her name. So yeah, I'm glad that he is quite closed up about his personal relationship, so that I won't have to deny it so much, and B, that I respect that he's but I have to say though, I'm quite disappointed when I heard him say how well, not disappointed, but it was bittersweet when I heard him say that he didn't believe in marriage, and of course, why would he? He was not a product of marriage. And so many marriage fail, and his schedule, he's not living a normal life, first of all. So if normal people cannot sustain a relationship, how can someone who's traveling so much, who's so famous, who's under pressure and has ambition? And I just heard from you just now about whether or not he's with Dua Lipa, and
I don't know if it's still going on. It was quite some. That's the last I heard him. A personal thing about him in the news was Dua Lipa. A few months ago, there was. I don't know if it was a relationship or maybe just a date and a kiss. But I want to know: have you ever gotten to see Trevor Noah live?
I have not. Mainly because back then I was living in Indonesia, and he was in Daily Show, and while he was on Daily Show, I don't think he could travel anywhere outside the US because he had to shoot every single working day, right?
Yeah.
And now that he's traveling, I'm kind of hoping, I mean,
well, he's coming to the UK in November.
He's coming to the UK, isn't he? So yeah, I will have to check that out. Although I have to say, I'm kind of a lazy bum that I'm like, if that thing is gonna be on Netflix, I'll wait until the Netflix. Because with the same thing as sports, I've seen like football, tennis, whatever, live on the stadium. Yeah, it's cool and everything, like going to the World Cup, blah blah blah. But if you are a fan of the sport itself, you will want to see the Zoom, you know what I mean? The replay and
it's so much different when you're at home versus live.
Yes.
We took my nephew to like a wrestling thing, like a WWE, and it's not as loud when you're in person and you don't get that you can't hear the commentators. It was just, I was like, this is odd. I don't like this.
Yes, it's too much distraction, and also you will have to smell the other person, the other people around you. And I think I enjoyed the lockdown in that sense, that people had to stand far away from each other.
Yes.
I enjoyed that so much. I'm an extrovert, and I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed not having to, like, wearing mask. I enjoyed that because then I didn't have to smell anything too much. And the whole thing about going to any concert, like, I am in love with Beyonce. I've never been to Beyonce concert. She's been to Indonesia twice, and I'd never been. The only musical concert that I've been are Linkin Park twice. And
that's a good one to have seen.
Yeah. It's very, very good. But for me, the same thing as traveling. I know that everyone say they love traveling, etc. But people keep forgetting that with traveling and with watching anything in person or live, it's the palaver, it's the logistics.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go there, like, you have to be there 3 hours prior. You have to empty your bladder, but then you're so dehydrated that you're gonna faint. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, I wish I could just be there. That's why teleportation. Get on it. People with all this money and all these inventions.
Yes, forget traveling to space.
Yeah. So
there's no shopping mall in Mars. Forget about it. I just need to be where I need to be. Like, I don't think if we can teleport, I don't think, remote work versus work from office would matter so much. It's because, like, people just commuting, transport, travel, all that thing is just a headache, and nothing goes right. And I've lived in third world and first world now, and nobody gets it right. Potholes everywhere, the highways giving me the wrong exit, or you know what I mean?
You said nobody gets it right.
Exactly, nobody gets it right. And also, I going back to Trevor, I respect him so much that he resigned. The fact that he resigned, and he wanted to resign because he wanted to travel the world and start experiencing life again, and giving even more material for his comedy. Because as we just talked about, traveling is a joke in the sense that it's not funny. And yeah, here's another bit that I really enjoyed from him. He went to Bali, right? Which is one of my hometowns, because I used to live there for a few years, and I got married there as well. He told, who did he say it to? I think he shared his opinion about, it's so backwards that people going camping, it's a very white people thing, because because people in the underprivileged country, we're like, we strive to live in a proper home, and you make camping as a destination. No way, no thanks, we're not going backwards. That's one. And then two, the poverty porn, when he said people, and there are it is true that there are some, like, village houses in Bali where all these tourists can actually enter your house.
What?
Yeah, well, it's a part of the attraction, can enter your house, so it's arranged, so it's not random. So it's almost like Airbnb light. So you just visit someone's house and have a look, because different culture have different structure of housing. And if hundreds of years ago in the first world, the toilet is not even inside the house, right? If you know distant history. So imagine in so many parts of the world, the structures of houses, like in Bali, your kitchen will be in this different building as your living room and in your bedroom. So the house is more like a cluster of gazebos type or pavilions. So yeah, it would be interesting for people from other culture, no matter what color, to see how other people live. And Trevor going to one of these things, he felt guilty. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry for intruding and such and such. So I like that about him, that he's still very sensitive about other people's way of life, that his celebrity status, his economical status doesn't change the fact that he care. Because back in South Africa, he knew, I think in South Africa there are 11 different languages. Because there are tribes as well, right? Well, in Indonesia we have 350 languages.
Jesus.
Exactly. We have 17,000 islands, and it's not even an exaggeration. It's like the Wikipedia number. So yeah, like even like me, like my parents came from different culture, different tribes, and when I'm like with my maternal grandmother and versus when I'm with my paternal family, they all speak different language and have different sets of culture. Like with one tribe, I'm not allowed to do and sit in the certain way, and in another culture you're not even allowed to, depending on who you are in the family tree, you're not allowed to go to the kitchen and wash the dishes and things like that. and I love that about Trevor, that growing up in such multicultural, diverse ethnic background equipped him to stay sensitive about other people's culture. And at the same time, instead of being offended and being holier than thou and telling off his friends like, oh, you're not supposed to do that, or oh, you're offending the locals, which is patronizing. He didn't. He just on a down low apologizing to the to the people living in that house. And I love that. And these little details, that it was thanks to him that I'm woke, and two, thanks to him as well, that I appreciate when people do things like this. From how to pronounce someone's name, how to address other people, like what is the customary tradition in this area, being respectful. I love that about him, that he's on that. Not only that I have a crush on him, because to be honest, he's very cute as well. That helps.
That helps.
Yeah, that helps. But the fact that I'm watching him, I'm entertained and educated, oh my God, that's a holy grail.
Well, say that you met your husband, the kids are out of the picture in this fantasy world, and you met Trevor Noah, you hit it off, and he might not be leaving marriage, but you guys are together. What do you think your lives would be like?
He and I will be writing TV shows together.
Do you have like a genre you think? Would you stay in comedy?
It would be a political comedy satire like Veep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I like when the crush fantasy is entrepreneurial, like when it's a business. They're like, oh well, we're gonna start business.
yeah, we're gonna duet. Yeah, he and I, we're gonna co-produce. So yeah, because I respect him so much that I would do that. Because to be honest with you, I wouldn't be with anyone romantically if I cannot even see them being in a joint venture with me. because anyone can get married, right? But not anyone can be your partner.
So we talked about Trevor Noah. Now it's time to talk more about what you have going on. I want to know what motivated you to start this personal branding business, upgrading women.
It's actually quite a similar overlapping story as well, in that I came to England in 2020 being a nobody. I literally, on my LinkedIn, the only UK contact I had was my sister-in-law.
Oh,
that was how I was unknown. Just like when Trevor moved to the US, nobody knew who he was, and therefore everybody just look at you like, who are you? Who the hell are you? And what are you trying to do? Are you gonna take our jobs and stuff? And of course, there's another layer of race issues, feminine issues, as in like, oh, you're a woman, you're probably only half good, half as good, and etc., including my personal experiences on people not or employers blocking my promotion because I was pregnant, or not hiring me as soon as they learned that I have 3 children. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I thought, you know what? There's so many things that people say it's meritocracy, but it's actually very, very BS, because there are so many brilliant minds that are blocked because they don't have access to further education. They don't have access to even have a good internship program, and so on and so forth. So I thought, okay, what can I do that is within my realm of influence? At the beginning, I thought, oh, maybe I should just, burn my savings and get a PhD, because then people will respect me having, extra letters to my name. But then I thought, you know what? At the same time, anyone can, especially these days, you can buy a degree online, right? It doesn't really matter. And going back to, okay, so if people really care about working with you, what they would care is your portfolio. But how will one, and again, as a woman, as an immigrant, as a person of color, how can one even have the opportunity to present one's portfolio if one doesn't even have anyone to talk to?
Yeah.
So, right? It's the chicken and egg situation. So I thought, okay, the one thing that will break the cycle of hire me, talking just to avoid, is building your personal brand. And for the longest time, I thought of this misconception that building a personal brand is only for influencers and celebrities. That's what I thought. Because, and remember, years and years ago, people like you and I, we wouldn't even think of having our own podcast. We thought these were platforms for those who already made it. You know what I mean? So it's almost
you needed
like
to already have
exactly. Exactly. So, and the more it's now democratized that people can build their own stage and stand on that stage and share their thought leadership, I thought, oh, you know what? Yes, let's now either build your own stage or get on to a stage that people that has already an embedded crowd. For example, like when you're on a high level being a TED speaker, right? You don't have to build an event. You just go to a TED event and be a speaker, and you have automatically an audience. And now on a scale that is more attainable is podcast and LinkedIn, right? Anyone like someone who's only having a crush on celebrity, not a celebrity herself, I can be featured in your podcast, and that will give me presence, that will give me instant audience, which is Kendra's audience. It's not Rebecca's audience. And then on LinkedIn, you have 300 million users, and quote unquote, all you need to do is to carve out a little bit of attention out of the 300 million users in there that is relevant to your industry, relevant to your location. If your business is locally based, if you're only serving like your local community, but if your business is an online or service business, you can reach out to anyone. So now I'm thinking, oh my God, I have reached, so from 2020 to now 3 years later, from someone who's a nobody, whose anxiety level is at, over the top, like if there's someone knocking at the door at my house, my heart would literally jump, because I thought it was the immigration officer trying to take me away from my children. Honestly, this is because this is the era where Trump was paging children. I don't live in the US, but the trauma is very much out there. So there's a knock at the door. I'm like, is this someone out to get me or something? So from having that level of anxiety, from being so obscure, and me sharing my thought leadership about communications, about how empathy can make you a better marketer, I'm now rubbing shoulders with politicians and CEOs and founders of tech companies here in Southampton and in London. I'm like, oh my God, within a couple of years, I can be from nobody to at least somebody who knows somebody. I'm probably now only 2 degrees separated from the king.
Could have went to the coronation.
Exactly. So yeah, and I think so. Do you know that lady that went viral, the one who held the sword?
No, I saw the Asian man that was walking behind William and Kate. Like, I think he just picked up his prescription and he didn't know. I don't know what he's just.
So the entire
was like, you're fine.
So the entire time, the camera will shoot at the king, and like 2 feet away from the king, there's this lady in blue holding the royal sword. The entire time holding a sword while looking so beautiful. So she's the president of the council, I think. That's one of her titles. So I know her, as in I've been in a room with her. I don't know her personally, but I've been in a room with her, like in a room full of like 40 people, and one of them is her. So I am literally 1 degree separated from the king now. Now that we're talking about it. But yeah, so going back to that, the only reason I could even have that leverage of network and business is solely because of personal brand. First of all, English is not even my first language. So building your personal brand in a foreign country using a foreign language, and using that formula, I want more people to be able to do the same. And especially ambitious women, we don't get enough access to, again, education. Plus, if we are business people, we don't get the same access to funding. Women only get, at most, 10% of venture capitalist funding. And I think that we can break the cycle of that crazy inequity using personal brand. Because if you are so strong and established in your field, nobody can reject you. People will see how confident you are, because men and women, let's just say we're equal. We're of course better. Let's just say we're equal. What I can see, and you can see this as well in, motivational speaker, blah, blah, blah. When men speak, they speak with like massive dick energy, like they own the room. Like, look at your former president, he didn't know anything from anything, but he would just speak and open his mouth, and people voted for it. And
I know. Don't remind me.
Exactly. So
embarrassing.
If personal brand could take that Cheeto of a man to sit in the Oval Office, imagine what personal brand can do to you in your world, right? So that is the whole thing.
What do you offer when people sign up for your personal branding?
So how I work with people is I combine actual human connection with AI. So some of you or all of you would know the crazy thing called ChatGPT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but the sad truth is robot is not taking over our job anytime soon, because they also are still experiencing error, etc. So what I do is when people work with me is I interview them just as much as you're interviewing me now. I interview them, I get to know them. It's like a first, second, third date type of interview. I want to know like their whole life story and what type of childhood they have, and also their genre of humor, because I need to capture their original tone of voice before I work with ChatGPT churning out content that will sound as if it came out of my client's mouth. So the reason why I use ChatGPT is because we need the scalability, right? And my client need the speed as well, because these days it's not enough to just post once a week. On TikTok, you post 3 times a day. So I use ChatGPT to help speed up the process, scale so that I can serve as many people as I can. Plus, and here's the thing that people don't notice, that I guess you could call me also like a ghostwriter, because on LinkedIn, especially this particular platform, commenting on other people's posts worth 1,000 engagement, because when you have a healthy debate, it showcase what type of leader you are, because when people are debating like children, you can easily say, oh my god, I don't want to work with them, and they're toxic, etc. So one of the things that I do for my client is actually commenting on their behalf, again using their own voice, their own point of view, but because of course my clients are busy people, they had to outsource it to me and my team. So what we do is we for example, a client who is in the tech sector, then I would comment on her behalf, not on her behalf, but like posing as her, saying that, oh, this is my take on AI, So I'm like literally an extra pair of hands, so that I can help my clients to outreach and to amplify her voices and her opinion, her expertise to the world, and the world will see, damn, this girl sounds so smart. And I want to work with her, and I want to fund her, I want to invest in her, and that is the whole game. I really want, and I serve only women. That's why I call my company Upgrading Women, because I only want to serve women, because we're the ones who need the leg up. And at the same time, society will be losing out from innovation if they don't invest in us. Gosh, there's so many great products and services that women are creating and not enough funding, and then society will be losing out. We probably could be teleporting tomorrow.
Exactly. Women get shit done.
Exactly. If any of you listening to the podcast using Canva at all, Canva was founded by a woman. If any of you using, a woman from Australia founded Canva. And guess who's the chief technology officer of OpenAI, the company that runs ChatGPT? She's also a lady. So there you go. If you think we don't do a good job at all, you should think again, my friend.
Women get shit done, but I also think, I always found it, my dad taught me this, and people that are immigrants also hardest workers you'll ever meet. My dad told me this story. He was a mailman and he had a coworker who was Hispanic, and he said that man would show up and work 8 hours for a quarter, and he would save that quarter, and so it just put this, like, it's just that workforce. Do you think being an immigrant is something that, you know, pushes you harder because you do have to work harder than those who are from the country?
Not only that we work harder, but we're so afraid of deportation that we will not do any funny business. Tell you that. We will be not only your most hardworking people, but we will be your most honest, most morally upright people, because it comes some part, yes, it comes out of fear, but some part it comes out of gratefulness, because we follow the news from each of our homelands, and we're like, oh my God, there's famine there, there's war. We are so grateful being in this country where there's no war, there's no famine, there's healthcare, etc., that we're willing to put in extra work because we're just so grateful to even being given the opportunity to work. So that is one thing. And statistically, yes, in the UK, 75%, you should fact check this, but I can safely say most of successful startups are diaspora founded. So there you go. It's like, it's not only anecdotal stories, but statistics say so as well. And again, it's out of utter gratefulness of the opportunity, and that we just want to make it work. Plus, there is a little bit chip on our shoulder that we want to show it to our parents, who probably, you know, depending on how many generations you're into the country, you want to show your parents that, you know, thank you for taking me to this country. This is how I show you my you know, like my offering to you is my success. Like, your sacrifices that you had to leave your country, your family behind, I'm not gonna waste it on, you know, just you know, making half-assed effort. So I'm giving you my full effort. I'm doing my level best.
Wow, I never thought about the fear aspect. That's interesting. I'm gonna ask some more friends about that. But as far as personal branding and content creation, it can be a lot. You said people are posting on TikTok at least 3 times a day. And I've talked to a number of musicians, because I also interview a lot of bands for a music site. And they said that they feel this extra layer of pressure to post on TikTok and Instagram and tweet when all they want to do is just work on their music. What do you think is like the best advice for like artists and content creators, anything like that, when it comes to like social media burnout? When you're kind of like, I don't want to do it, but you have to do it nowadays.
I have to say, that is one of the pillars of why my company is thriving at all, is because, and I put this in our tagline, be on fire, not burnt out. Is literally, I'm advising other people to say, hey, build your personal brand, but you don't have to do it yourself. You know, you can outsource it to people like me, to companies or agencies like mine, because why would you do your own bookkeeping? You have to do it, but you don't have to do it yourself, right? So my advice, outsource it, delegate it. And that is what I always tell my client, like, hey, I'm doing this for you so you can do what you do best. If you're a musician, make music. Don't make TikTok videos, but give me access so I can either record you while you're jamming, you know, and give me access to interviews, like what inspired you to write this song and how, you know. So the thing is with content creation, which is part of, again, for me, creating content is the same as bookkeeping. You cannot, you know, you can probably put it off, but at some point, you will have to do it, whether you like it or not. Again, with bookkeeping, you have app, right? But you have to still provide the input. You have to keep the receipt. You have to, keep the invoice and stuff. In the same way with personal branding, even if you're outsourcing to people like me, you will still have to give me some input. I cannot, just write a random quote and call it yours. I wouldn't advise that. But yeah, work with someone. And it doesn't even have to be, super, like, if I can be frank, like I charge £2,000 per month for my client. And that is a fair price tag. And it's worthwhile for those who are ambitious and building big businesses and stuff. But if you are a smaller business, you are just starting up, you don't have to think oh my God, it will have to be like a super a big undertaking. Well, I'm not using Goldman Sachs as my accountant, as my investment executive. No, but you can always find a solopreneur, fellow freelancer bookkeeper, just as much as you can find an intern to help you with your personal brand. You can find a part-time person to do your personal brand. But yeah, preventing burnout is just like everything else. Delegate.
Very good advice. Well, whether you're doing it yourself or you're delegating, you do have to put yourself out there, just to get your name out there. Which, can you let people know where they can find you online and all your services?
Yes, just connect with me on LinkedIn. Find me, Rebecca Leppard. There's, if you see anyone on LinkedIn called Rebecca Leppard in pink, that will be me. And you can, it's easier than finding my website because, and here's why, I post on LinkedIn 3, 4, 5 times a week, and you can literally, and I encourage you to steal all my tips and advice and put it into practice and see how it will be. The ROI is amazing. You will be, if you are already, if you're not known, you will be well known. If you're already well known, guess what? You will get better project. You can increase your pricing. If you're an employee, you can actually angle for a promotion. All of this stuff is up for grabs.
You just got to know how to grab it, right?
Exactly. So connect with me on LinkedIn and we take it from there.
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about your comedian crush, Trevor Noah, and so much more. I feel like I learned so much from you.
Oh, pleasure.
I'm a nerd. I love school. I love to learn. I'm always going to be learning. And everyone, you can find all of Rebecca's information below about upgrading women and her LinkedIn especially. And until next time, as always, keep crushing it.